friends and neighbors. Welcome in the light, where laughter's the answer and hearts are shining bright. With calloused hands and wits, so raise your sharp. Let's praise a place where love ignites the spark.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Well, it's another Monday, and I'm glad you're with me. We're going to get started right away. We like to tell stories about people that are trying to be the sunny side of other people's lives. And I do get political, and that is part of, who I am. And so I'm just going to share some things, a couple of people that I'm very interested, and I want to, and if you haven't caught up with them yet, or you're not quite sure what to think, I'll just give you my 2 cents, and we can move on from there. But there are some things happening in the in primaries right now that are coming up very quickly, particularly one in Kentucky and then a mayoral race in Los Angeles. And I have 2 favorite candidates. And so my favorite candidates for Kentucky, my favorite candidate for Kentucky is none other than the sitting current congressman from their 4th district, which is Thomas Massie. And now, listen, there are some people that the president, including the president, I guess President Trump is leading the pack to unseat him because he made President Trump mad. And when you make President Trump mad, he's going to do everything he can to get back at you. Because if there's one thing that the president truly loves, is loyalty to himself, and that is something that Thomas Massie has proven that he can vote with the Trump agenda 91% of the time. But that 9%, if it's not 100% for the Lord and Savior Donald Trump, then you are going to be ousted by DJT, and that's what's happening. They're spending $10 million against Thomas Massie in Kentucky for a congressional primary.
These super PACs, again, they're not talking. They're distorting my record instead of telling you why they're trying to flush me out of Congress. They want to flush me out of Congress because I don't vote for foreign aid. They've spent about $10 million. Their super PACs and their campaign
with a guy who has what's his name, Guine or something like that. Anyway, he's he had tried to run for state senate and lost a year or 2 ago. So he is unsuccessful in his own party. That was a primary. He lost the primary for a state senator job, and now he's being recruited in the last year by President Trump himself. And so this is who Thomas Massie is running against. And Massie has got 90% approval for his previous elections have just been landslides because the people of Kentucky seem to really like him. And in, say, my demographic of Gen Xers and younger, he still holds that ridiculously high approval rating. So you would think this would be pretty easy to do. But unfortunately, it's not, because there is a much larger demographic of Fox News viewers only, of a certain older generation than my own, who just go along with whatever Donald Trump says and whatever Fox News says. And in this case, whatever whoever, I guess it's Massie says there's like 3 billionaires. One of them is Adelson and whoever else is involved. And there's a variety of interests that are desperately seeking to unseat him because he claims that Israel wants to buy a seat in the House via Kentucky. And he might have something to that, because it's very rare. In fact, it's unprecedented that in a congressional primary in the Republican Party in Kentucky, or maybe anywhere, that you would spend $10 million trying to unseat a sitting U.S. congressperson who 91% of the time votes along with the Trump agenda, the Make America Great agenda. And the thing is, the differences between Donald Trump, say, and Thomas Massie is that Thomas Massie has actually done what the Trump agenda claimed that it would do when Donald Trump was elected back in 2024. And so now, if you go against Donald Trump, he's going to throw a little conniption fit, and he's going to do everything he can and use all of his friends with lots of money to try to unseat you. And the guy that he's running against, I guess he's a Navy SEAL. Good job for you. That was a long time ago. He's not like Navy SEAL, like we see in the movies now. He's like Navy SEAL like 40 years ago. So a little younger, say, than Jesse Ventura, Navy SEAL. But if you're a Navy SEAL for the rest of your life, you get to wear that as a badge of honor, as you well should. And apparently he's got a farm, and so he's a farmer. farmer, and there's horses involved with farming in Kentucky, and so there's that. And apparently, it's a fairly well-known farming name in Kentucky. I wouldn't know because I don't know a lot of farmers in Kentucky. I know Kentucky is a beautiful state, and I know that Thomas Massie is also a farmer, but he's also an engineer, an MIT graduate, as was his wife, his former wife. She passed away a while ago, and then Thomas Massie had the audacity to get married again about 14 months later, because he thought that as a father and as a man that it would be good to have a woman in his life to whom he was married in a biblical relationship, and so they went ahead and got married, and Donald Trump gave him a lot of flack for that. I mean, come on, Donald Trump. This is the guy who cheats on every wife he's had, and so he's giving moral suppositions, I suppose, about a guy who decides that it's better to be married before, so you can have this relationship and two people can grow together and not be lonely, and also do it under the guise of faith and good for the family. So Thomas Massie just kind of chuckles that off, as he well should. Like a lot of things that the president says, it's off the cuff. It doesn't hit well. He thinks he's a comedian. And sometimes sometimes DJT is very funny. And I laugh at some of the things that he says. But lately, his jokes just haven't been landing. And this is no joke. What is happening right now in Kentucky is very, it's a problem. Now, we're here in Iowa, so it's not representing our district, but it does say a lot about what we think and what we believe as conservatives. And particularly if you're an independently minded conservative, in other words, you actually think for yourself, you're not too worried about what any party has to say. You use critical thinking and common sense. And Thomas Massie has been doing that his entire career. The guy invented and founded a robotics company with his wife, his first wife, a long time ago, before she passed away. They both were from Kentucky, high school sweethearts, and they decided that Boston was not for them. The Northeast was not for them. So they moved back to Kentucky. And then on a farm, they built their own house. They live off grid.
He lives unlike any other member of Congress, off the grid in a timber frame home he and his late wife Rhonda built using stones and fallen trees from their property.
With their own hands and designed. I love this. This is the kind of stuff that's right up the Sunnyside of Life alley, because if you've been listening to this show, this is what I like to do. I like to build stuff with my own hands. I like to use the materials that we have around. I like to have it have character. It has to have purpose. It has to be practical, but it also has to be beautiful. And so he did this with his own house. He has got all kinds of like Jeffersonian engineering ideas, helping bring water from the top, one part of the hill and running it down and creating pressure so he can water his peach trees. He has 15 varieties of peach trees on his farm.
I have 15 varieties of peaches, and they each get ripe on a different week. So peach season on this farm in Garrison starts at the end of June and goes all the way through September.
They apparently they mature 1 week apart from each other. So his entire season from June till September, he's got peaches, and he raises cattle, which obviously I do too. He's got more cattle than I do.
He raises grass-fed cattle.
Some of these are going to freezer camp this fall.
He has chickens, and his chicken tractor that he designed.
One of his inventions protects and moves the grazing poultry 1 inch at a time.
I call it the Clux capacitor. I can be gone for a week and it runs by itself because it's got a microprocessor in it that I wrote the code for, and I can tell it how much I want it to move every day.
So now his chicken tractor, a lot more. I mean, this is the difference of having, say, like a liberal arts degree like I have, or having a degree from MIT and founding a robotics company. Like, his chicken tractor just moves his chickens 1 inch at a time. And he doesn't even have to be there for that, which is handy because he's in Congress. When he's in Washington, D.C., he's got his own. He's got like a little camper on the back of his pickup truck, and that's frequently where he will stay and live. He runs off of solar energy on his farm back in Kentucky that he rewired and repurposed.
I took a wrecked Model S Tesla, took the battery out of that, disassembled it, and rewired it. So my house has been running off of a Model S Tesla battery for about 8 years.
Yeah, imagine being able to do that, Right, so he claims then that because of his electricity, because of his food production, because he doesn't own, or he owns his property, doesn't own owe anybody any money, he doesn't leave high interest in borrowing and all that other stuff. This guy can just go on with life, and regardless of what happens to him, and he's always lived that way.
The independence that I've created or earned here on the farm, whether it's from the food or the power that it generate, or that I can build a structure with the lumber on the land, that's what enables me to go to Washington, D.C. and say, you don't have anything over on me. Like, you could literally take everything I've got and I can create it again, and I'll be okay.
You can be a person, a politician, who gets elected, and he started out like in the county level and worked his way up. People asked him to run, and then now he became a very popular congressman in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky is a red state, and people do like Donald Trump. They voted for him, but so did Thomas Massie 3 times, 2016, 2020, and 2024. And 91% of the time, he votes with the Trump agenda. But there are a few things that Thomas Massie just will not do. He expects that if the Trump administration said that they were going to prosecute, reveal, and shed all this light upon the Epstein files to bring that to course, he expected that they would do that. They did not. And so he authored a law that the president eventually had to sign.
This is the main charge that's been leveled against me, that I don't vote with the party enough. When the party votes for warrantless spying on Americans, I don't vote for that. I'm actually taking a position that Donald Trump had less than 2 years ago. He was against the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act being used to spy on Americans without a warrant, because it was used against him, he found out, and then covering up for pedophiles. I didn't vote for that. The president's own children, the vice president, the FBI director, and the president himself said that they would release the Epstein files. I worked harder than anybody else to get it done and got it done. And that's part of the 10% where they say, I have betrayed the Republican Party.
And so now, hopefully, we will see what is actually going on and the people that are behind the actual Epstein situation. But that was what Trump promised that he was going to do. And so the fact that Thomas Massie held them to account, to me, that just speaks as a person who is conservative and has a libertarian bent and says, well, if you say you're going to do this in your campaign, let's do it. And when they decided to change course for whatever reason, Thomas Massie was like, no, we're not doing that. And that made them mad. That made whoever mad. And they decided they weren't going to do it. He also refuses to vote for foreign aid for anybody. There's no foreign aid in Thomas Massie's imagination, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
This is kind of a proxy war between the America Firsters and the Israel Firsters. Thomas Massie, the incumbent in this race, has voted consistently against providing foreign aid to many countries, including Israel. Israel doesn't like that, and so their minions here in the United States are working overtime to oust Massie, and they are pouring a lot of money into his primary challenger.
Other nations, our tax dollars, do not need to be paying for other countries in support of any other country. Any other country. It is unnecessary. Now, people will argue that the amount of money that we actually spend in our ever-growing gigantic abortion of a federal budget is tiny. It's insignificant what we give to other countries. And this is just a good gesture. It's how business is done. I scratch your back, you scratch mine, we give you some money, whatever. And you might think that it is insignificant too, but it's billions of dollars that we give away. And that is money that we could be using if nothing else, here in the country, if we didn't change anything, or just reduce our budget. And that would be a great way to do that. Now, the problem is that Israel is very dependent on the United States. It expects our money. We pay for their wars, and we pay for whatever agenda that they've got going on over there, just like we do for other countries as well. Anytime you give support for them, for any other country via money, you're essentially agreeing, in my opinion, with whatever it is that what they're up to. And I don't like that. as a conservative, I don't like that. And as a person who thinks that, our job should be taking care of America first, in other words, make America great again, America first, that whole agenda, Thomas Massie thinks, well, we don't need to do that. So he's never voted for foreign aid packages.
In Congress, Massie is often a caucus of one. He's been the only dissenting vote on so much legislation, he's earned the nickname Mr. No.
So that makes people upset. So upset that you can get AIPAC and other organizations, particularly for Israel, but other groups who don't like the way he votes on foreign aid, to try to put a sycophant in who supports Donald Trump in everything he does without thinking. And so that is two of the three that Thomas Massie will say. And I happen to think that those two things are very conservative. When Republicans say that they want to cut the budget, when they want to prevent foreign wars, when they want to put America first, when they said that they were going to have a transparent government and that they were going to open up all of these things about Epstein. We've got more information now to some degree on the UFOs that are apparently all around us. What's going on there? Than we do about Epstein and the whole twisted situation. A very untalented human being who has passed away in one way or another a few years ago. There's only one person in jail. Nobody else has been prosecuted. And this is a problem for Thomas Massie. And so what we get instead is we get a war with Iran, which is illegal, and it is wrong, and it is unclear of what the purpose has ever been, and I've been saying that for a long time, and so has Thomas Massie on the floor of the House.
The Constitution is clear. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of our Constitution provides Congress initiatory powers of war. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of our Constitution gives the president operational powers of war to wage that war. Even if this body were to pretend that the 1973 War Powers Resolution supersedes the clear language of the Constitution, the president still has not met the conditions required by that law itself. The 1973 War Powers Resolution states plainly that the president may only introduce U.S. armed forces into hostilities pursuant to three conditions: either 1, declaration of war; 2, specific statutory authorization; or 3, a national emergency created by an attack upon the United States. None of those conditions exist today. Iran has not attacked the United States, Congress has not declared war, and Congress has not granted specific statutory authorization. Beyond the constitutional question, here lies an even more important one. Why are we going to war with Iran?
And man, you just can't do that. If people in the White House think that they have the authority to just go make war whenever they want, with whomever they want, and they're allowed to do that, they clearly are not constitutional Republicans, right? They're not. And Republicans like to say that they're constitutional conservatives, which I think is great. But read the damn Constitution. And look, there's no reading in the Constitution in the White House. They're not reading the Bible. They're misquoting all kinds of crazy evangelical nonsense of what they think, I guess, is faithful Christianity. And God knows what kind of misguided moralism they're spewing from the White House and from the cabinet room particularly. But Massie's not doing any of that. He's like, no, you said you were going to release the Epstein files. I'm going to make you do that. You said you weren't going to go to war in the Middle East and that you were going to reduce the number of wars. And in the last year, what you've done is blown up a lot of alleged drug boats. You've toppled Venezuela because I guess you can. And then now you've created this war with Iran, which I've talked about before. And we're constantly shocked and surprised as a nation. And it's funny watching the shock and surprise and irritation, really, from the White House and the administration in general, having the fact that this darn independent country of Iran keeps hanging on. so dang irritating. The audacity that they have to do such a thing is frustrating, and to defend themselves against America. Look, when America comes in and we decide to knock your teeth in, then you need to stay down. You need to lay down. And if there's one thing that we know in America as we approach our 250th anniversary of our independence, coming up this 4th of July, when a bigger country, a powerful country, maybe a superpower country, tells you to sit down and take it, then what we do as Americans is we sit down and we take it, right? No. We do not do that. We haven't. That's why we're celebrating 250 years coming this July 4th. It's so amazing, and yet we're shocked when other countries don't just take it from us. The audacity that these people keep fighting back, and then to shut off the Strait of Hormuz. The audacity. Why would they do that? Don't they realize what they've caused for an economic situation for the world? What Iran is causing now the Strait of Hormuz, by the way, prior to us bombing the hell out of them, was still open. It was open. And then so essentially we closed the Strait of Hormuz. Now I know Iran is doing that, but it's because in response to what we did. It's like we went and set a fire, and we're the firemen. And then we put out parts of the fire, and we're upset that other people aren't helping us put out the fire that we started. It's so dumb. It's childish. And Massie sees that and goes, you said that you weren't going to do these things. And you called, for example, the Iraq War a terrible idea. Concur. And that's why people liked you. That's why people loved you. You had this coalition. They knew that you had been wrong. They knew, Donald Trump, that you had been wrong. They knew that you had been pursued by all these, this lawfare the entire time that you were out of office. Everybody knew that. And we were excited that you would come back and you would set things right again. Instead, what you've done is the opposite of what you've said, with the exception of immigration. Right? Immigration has actually been the one thing that the Trump administration has done pretty well on. But everything else has been a disaster because his ideas are dumb. It's terrible to have tariffs. I've said that for a long time. There's no advantage to tariffs whatsoever. Donald Trump thinks it's a negotiation. He thinks he's a brilliant negotiator. And the tariff situation has not made it cheaper for those in the United States prior to the war in Iran. Now, gas is $5 a gallon. He's going into a midterm.
This administration can't even give us a straight answer as to why we launched this preemptive war. The president says we had to strike first because an Iranian strike was imminent. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense conceded there was no evidence of an imminent Iranian strike. Some told us this war was about nuclear weapons, but 6 months ago, we were assured our last strike on Iran decimated their nuclear program. So which is it? I think the most candid answer came from the Secretary of State, who told the press that Israel forced our hand and dragged us into this war. Again. And that truth is the very reason why it is Congress that must decide war. If American lives are to be risked and American blood is to be shed, that decision must be debated and voted on by the representatives of the American people. And that debate is meant to be arduous. And that vote is meant to be hard. I have a theory. I think my colleagues don't want to go on record because we have a terrible track record of meddling in the Middle East. They don't want their name associated with this when it doesn't turn out well. But Congress cannot be bothered with its constitutional duty because for many in this chamber, it's easier to simply allow someone else's sons and daughters to be sent to combat without their vote.
I mean, the dumbassery of this situation, pardon my French, but some of these things do have to be. I mean, it's just who is in charge up there at the White House, and Capitol Hill is doing nothing about it. They're all afraid of running. They're all afraid of dealing with the big boss up in the White House as the leader of the party. And Thomas Massie is like, listen, I'm just doing what you said you were going to do and holding us accountable for that. No ridiculous foreign wars. We're not spending a bunch of money. The big, beautiful bill was not, it was big, but it was not beautiful. It was stupid. And he can go line by line. And he's not, I'm not going to I'm not going to vote for things that are just going to flush the government with money, devalue your dollar and my dollar, make things more inflationary, and then not supporting tariffs, not supporting these billions and billions and billions of dollars that we're just throwing away either to other nations in support of foreign aid, or we're doing all this crazy stuff when we're financing a war now that we're not even sure how we're going to get out of because we didn't think that through all the way. We thought it was going to be like Venezuela, and it is not. And so all of these things are just disastrous for, in my opinion, the Trump administration. It doesn't really matter, because he's a lame duck president, and he very well could be very lame duck here in less than a year. And I think that unfortunately is the situation, and nobody wanted that. Democrats wanted that. I don't want that. I want a Republican Party that actually does what it says it would do. But they don't do that either. And so that is very frustrating for me as a Republican, and then Libertarian, and then now back to Republican. It's just like I'm come back. It's like when I went to college after I'd been to the Army. So I was in college for 2 years. It was Waldorf University back then was just a 2-year private Lutheran college, which is a weird business model, I admit. But 2 years, I went there. Then I went to the Army. I came back from the Army, and then by that time, it was a 4-year school. So I went back and got my bachelor's degree from Waldorf University. And then during that time, actually, when I got my 4-year degree, it was still called Waldorf College. And so now it's Waldorf University because they've added graduate degree programs and all of that stuff. Good for them. But when I came back, having left college at 20 and then coming back and finishing my bachelor's degree in my upper 20s, it was a different experience for me. And I had when you're 18 years old and you're going to college and you're having that college experience with all the other people that are 18 years old, and the smartest person in the room is the college professor from whom you are learning whatever your curriculum is demanding, you're just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. When I came back from the Army, having lived around the world and seen things, and I decided that I wanted to finish my degree, and that was part of my GI Bill benefits. I did so, but the difference for me is like, man, I'm in my late 20s at this point. I'm a non-traditional student. I got a business on my own. I've worked. I've been around the world. I've seen things. I've experienced things. I'm not some 18, 19, 20-year-old minion who has never been outside of the classroom, who is just, absorbing everything that the professor has to say because, when they express an opinion, they assume that these, mindless 18, 19, 20-year-olds are just going to take it for granted. And I'm like, no, that's not how this is working. Now, for me, it worked out well. Some people say that you can't argue with your professors when you're a student. And I'm like, you don't have to argue with them, but you also can stand on your laurels and say, no, I don't. The truth is an 18, 19, 20-year-old doesn't know anything either. And so they don't get the same respect perhaps as a 27-year-old who comes in and goes, yeah, I was stationed around the world. I think what you're saying is kind of a load of crap. That's not actually how this works. And also, you've never had a job outside of education. So what do you actually know about the real world? And I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner, but it was certainly something that bolstered my ability to argue certain positions when I was in college, finishing my bachelor's degree in history, and I succeeded, and I'm fine. My grades were great. I had great relations with my professors, and most of them we did not agree with politically whatsoever, and so it helped to have that additional experience of being in and coming back. Well, I thought that that's what was going to happen when Trump lost in 2020 and came back in 2024. I thought that his administration had seen what had happened, understood what was going on, and learned a lot about the culture. And in some ways, at the first 100 days, I think, of the administration, it really seemed like that's what was going on. They just tackled immigration immediately. They did away with all of this woke nonsense and the transient of kids and all kinds of just ridiculous, insignificant word salad wokeness that they got rid of. That was good from the Pentagon all the way down, and across the board. That was all good stuff. And it looked like that they were going to doge all of these organizations, and they were going to save us billions and billions of dollars because they were going to go through and audit every single entity in the federal government. And that lasted for a few months, 3 months tops. And then Elon Musk left. It wasn't going the way that they weren't actually doing anything with the information that they had. They did some showboating about the amount of corruption that is in our federal budget in these different agencies. And some things, I suppose, did get stopped. But where is that today? It's like been completely forgotten about. And I would have thought that coming back to an administration after having learned all the, it looked like they were really making, like they had learned something, like they had come back to college essentially at 27, taken a hiatus there, experienced the world, learned from what they had experienced before, and they came in at the Trump administration. It looked like they were really going to get rolling. And then somewhere in the last several months, it is like they have not cleared out any of the swamp. They are now 100% swamp monsters. They're using their lawfare against their enemies. They're threatening First Amendment, telling people that they shouldn't be talking or allowed to speak or allowed to express opinions or do this type of thing. Republicans are just blindly, in some cases, going along with the president's nonsense and his administration spokespeople's nonsense about what can be said and what can't be said and who can say it, what you can think and what you can't think. And this is just continuing to happen. And then he's getting advice. The president's getting advice from, I would say, incredibly neocon nefarious characters, which is not what I voted for. I didn't vote for more war in the Middle East. All stupid. We're not good at it. I didn't vote for more spending, and I realized that Trump was going to. He doesn't care about spending. I mean, the guy doesn't care about bankruptcy. He sure as hell doesn't care about your tax dollars being used usefully. And so we kind of accepted that going in, but thinking like, well, maybe he'll shut down immigration. That seems to be going pretty well. Maybe he'll get some of this woke nonsense away that but we're just ridiculous inputs from the Democrat Party. And he did some of that. And then he just went and completely worked for, taking the advice of foreign individuals or people with foreign interests. He did not. He pretends like Epstein files didn't. We're still talking about Epstein. We don't need any of that stuff. We want to know everybody that's behind that. We want to know everybody that did business with them. Well, that might hurt some people's feelings. Not my problem. I'm not on the list. Could care less. Irrelevant to me. But powerful people with a lot of money are making that very difficult to do. And so what we get instead is a war with Iran, a distraction with drug boats in the Pacific or the Caribbean, a distraction with UFO files being released. It's just, I mean, so if you're a guy like Thomas Massie, who's like, well, now wait a second, all of the things that I've said as a conservative since I was in the local, before I was even elected to the local offices, I have not strayed from that. And if you talk to conservatives and Republicans, like I do all the time, most of my friends are, conservative, and we have these conversations. We all say the same things. We want government to get out of our lives, to not be so overreaching and obtrusive. We don't need the government to help us with anything in business. We don't need subsidies. We don't need welfare. We don't need all of these rules and regulations and things that just slow down the economy. We don't want a bunch of spending. We want less spending and across the board for everybody. And we would prefer it if we would quit getting involved in these ridiculous skirmishes and wars around the world. Just do business with people or don't do business with people. That's how you make America great again. Control your immigration situation, enforce the laws, and get out of the way. That's what we wanted. And yet, the only person, in my opinion, in Congress that is sticking to those talking points and has been stuck to those talking points from the get-go is Thomas Massie. And so now there's a big problem if you're trying to get rid of Thomas Massie and you support that as a Republican because you just want a yes man in that spot. That's all Trump wants. He just wants a yes man. In fact, that's what his opponent said that he was there for. He doesn't need an obstacle. The president doesn't need an obstacle. He needs backup because I'm a Navy SEAL from back in the day. He needs backup. And it's like, there are three distinct, parts of our government in the federal level: the president, the Congress, and the courts, like the judiciary. Like they act independently and they are co-equal branches. So no, I don't need a yes man or a yes woman in Congress in any capacity to sycophantically go along with whatever Donald Trump farts out in a tweet or a Truth Social that particular day at 3 a.m. in the morning. I don't need it. Don't care for it. He can do whatever he wants. I support a lot of the things that the president does and a lot of the agenda that apparently is supposed to be happening, but we'll see what happens because a lot of it is also just changing course midstream. And I expect Congress to do their job. And the only one that it seems like is doing that in the House is Thomas Massie. I don't care. In fact, it's almost not now, maybe I think differently. Maybe common sense is too much a part of my life. Maybe critical thinking and when you truly are a critical thinker, it always starts with someone makes a statement and they say, how do you know what you know? And so a lot of what I'm hearing is I'm like, well, when somebody is running for office, then the way to get elected is then you have to be 100% in line with Donald Trump. And people who are running for office are desperately trying to affiliate themselves with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a one-trick pony. And I supported him in 2016. I introduced him to the Winnebago County Republicans. I voted for him 3 times. And he is not who I thought he was going to be this second go around, but still better than what Kamala Harris would have been. No question in my mind. However, if you're running for office and you think that Trump name or that Trump picture is going to sway me to vote for you because you love Trump lots and lots and lots, it almost has the opposite effect for me now. Like if you're running for office as a Republican and it's like, I'm 100% Trump. Look at me, Trumpity Trump, Trump, Trump. It's like Trump is going to be gone in 2.5 years. He could very well be a lame duck president in less than a year. So then what did that get you? Did it get you the votes that you needed from the folks that still wear the MAGA hats? Which I've never had a MAGA. That's not true. I had a MAGA hat in 2016. My brother-in-law gave it to me as a gift. And I never wore it because I thought they were ugly. They're ugly hats. But despite that, like I said, I voted for him, 3 times. I was hoping for the best. And but what I really wanted was them to do what they said they were going to do. And I found it in a lot of inspiration in Thomas Massie. And now, because he doesn't agree with spending tons of money in the big, beautiful bill, blowing out our budget, which we never really even have, and he's consistently done that. He does not vote for foreign aid of any type, and he wants to have this situation and prosecutions with the Epstein files, stop making wars that you're not allowed by the Constitution to do. He's become an enemy of President Trump.
Well, Thomas Massie is no stranger to harsh words from the president. In fact, Mr. Trump called Massie a moron during the National Prayer Breakfast last month. And as a sign of how the congressman handles comments like that, Massie told me today that he's glad he's in the president's prayers. Speaking to his supporters in Hebron on Wednesday, President Trump sounded off on Thomas Massie, who represents Northern Kentucky in Congress.
He is the worst person. His name is, what the hell? How did he ever end up in Kentucky? His name is Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is a disaster for our party.
A little later, Ed Galrine, the candidate Mr. Trump has endorsed to replace Massie, piled on.
I hope the fake news gets this. Tom Massie stands with the ladies of The View.
I've got a thick skin. You know, I vote with the party and with President Trump 91% of the time. One of those 9% cases where I deviated, and I think it struck a nerve with him, was when I forced the release of the Epstein files. I authored that bill.
And so nothing would make me happier than for Thomas Massie to pull off this primary, defeat this douchebag Navy SEAL guy who can't even win a state Senate primary in his own party, was hand-selected by the president because President Trump was mad at him. And I would love nothing more than for Thomas Massie, and I hope and pray that that's the case. Now, if it's the will of God, then things are all going to work. Well, it's all in God's hands anyway. So if the other guy, Geiner or whatever, gets in, I guess it's in God's hands. That doesn't mean that he's God's man. Certainly, Trump's not God's man. But that doesn't mean that people can't be used in God's plan one way or the other. But I will tell you this. It will be a sad day for the Republican Party because as it becomes more and more apparent to the thinking conservatives that their party is bought and paid for. We know the Democrats are bought and paid for. Independent thinking is not allowed. People who are bought and paid for are just expected to get in. It's the people at whatever level of the top, or different levels of tops, I guess, and whether it's state or county or federal, that are picking the winners. You are losing people in both sides. Trump had done such a great job building this amazing coalition of young people and working class folks and people from all backgrounds, all walks of life, all faiths, all religions, all ethnicities. And he succeeded. He did not win in a landslide, but he won very convincingly. So that is not there anymore. Like you're losing the working class, you're losing the white working class, you're losing the people the people that you'd built a coalition with unions with, you're losing the folks that are in other demographics that you said that you would have, and what you're seeing is that the independents, independents are becoming a more attractive option than either party, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, the Libertarian Party. Like people just want to be independent. They want to listen. They want to see. They do not trust the media. They do not get their news from just one source or two sources. They certainly aren't getting it from corporate sources that make all their money with advertising from pharmaceuticals or whomever, you know. And so that the entire demographic of the voting population of the United States is changing course, and it's happening just like right in front of the left and the right, the red and the blue, the Republicans and the Democrats, right in front of their parties, and they could care less. And they're shocked when they're saying young people are leaving us or this demographic is leaving us, and it's like, yeah, because you blew it. You don't care. And unfortunately, I think that's what is happening as we roll into the midterms. Now, if Thomas Massie wins this primary, which I certainly hope that he does, then this goes away. Donald Trump still won't shut up, but at least that's egg on his face, which he can handle. He's a big boy. He can handle it, you know. And then Massie will go back and he's going to win. He's going to win. There's not even a Democrat challenger could come close to Massie. He has won by 75% in all his elections before. But now, because you've got billionaires supporting him and throwing $10 million into supporting this other guy who can't win a state Senate primary, that is what's happening there. So I am for Thomas Massie. If you want to support Thomas Massie, just got a little bit of time to send him some money or send him some kudos or whatever, wherever you're from. That'd be helpful to him. He's got an uphill battle. He is leading in the polls, but it is single digits. And I hope that those polls are incredibly inaccurate. Is my hope. Is that I hope that he just whoops his primary opponent, and that this ends to some degree. He's taken a lot of flack. He's taken a lot of flack, but he can handle it. And I like it when you have independent-minded, conservative, libertarian-leaning Republicans who live off the grid, who build stuff with their own hands, you can't. Donald Trump called Thomas Massie a moron. This is hilarious to me because Thomas Massie engineered a robotics company that he sold for, that his wife moved back to Kentucky, and he built his own house with his own hands. Donald Trump always uses other people's hands to do everything, and then he designs his redesigns a Tesla, uses that to power his car, and designs a chicken tractor where he designs like the microprocessors or whatever so that it can move 1 inch at a time and he can control it with his phone when he's in Washington, D.C. Yeah, he's the moron. Give me a break. Like, if you are an admirer of our American history, if you find it interesting that Washington was interested in farming and Jefferson was interested in multiple, like these were true Renaissance people, then this is a Renaissance man who has a clear understanding of the constitutional principles of the United States of America, who is a conservative, who is a faithful Christian, and he is smart enough to know the difference between what Trump is saying and what he's doing, and then being able to actually act on what truly is a Make America Great Again agenda. So Thomas Massie is a no-brainer, and I hope that my listeners in Kentucky appreciate that. They probably, if they're my listeners, already know that and feel the same way. And if you're not in Kentucky, which is where most of my listeners are, they're not in Kentucky, go ahead and click on the link and support Thomas Massie if you want to. Primaries are right around the corner, like within a week or two, and so it's very important. And I hope that I've never met him, I've never talked to him, I've just watched many of his different videos on YouTube, the different shorts, the interviews, Tucker Carlson, news sources, debates on the congressional floor, and all these other things. So he's just a very, very interesting man, and a true blue, independent-minded conservative who is not a cuckold. And so that is good. And now my second person that I want to go, I'm not going to spend quite as much time with this because I just find it so humorous. I think I was in Los Angeles when I was like 4 years old or something like that. It was a long, long time ago, visiting my great aunt. So I believe I was in Los Angeles back then. I haven't been in Los Angeles since then, besides stopping over, at LAX on some other trip and then just not leaving the airport. We were actually flying back from Hawaii and landed in Los Angeles to transfer planes, and things were just starting to smoke out there during the wildfires when that happened. Well, it's the wildfires that has inspired a mayoral candidate named Spencer Pratt to run against Karen Bass, who's the current mayor, and a city councilwoman who I can't remember her name. It's not really not that important. The way California does it is they don't now. So mayor is a it's not a partisan office. I mean, the other two are Democrats or Democrat socialists. Yeah, that's what America is. And then you've got Spencer Pratt, who is a Republican, but he's pretty moderate Republican. He's a California Republican. He's he and his wife are pretty faithful people. They raise their kids, and he has his wife's claim to fame is like reality TV stars, which I never watched any of those shows, so I don't particularly like reality TV. But there's a whole generation of people that know who he is, and apparently he was like the bad guy in these reality shows. I don't even know what the reality TV show was. But since I've come around in the last few months and paid attention, you're probably seeing it now more than ever because he did a debate recently where he crushed it. He crushed it in the debate. They asked him a question. And as the guy who asked the question was like from Telemundo, like, why are you here asking these questions? But I guess they do that in California. And they just asked, do you think that, illegals should be able to vote or people that are not citizens should be able to vote? And he just gives a single one-word answer.
Non-citizens, should they be allowed to vote in local elections? Is this a yes or no, Mr. Pratt?
No.
No. And the other two can't give a straightforward answer, and they think that there's so much more nuance. And that's the problem with people getting wrapped around the axles of their own minds and their own rhetoric. They think so much that they can't come up with a clear solution. And that is clearly evident what has been happening in California politics for a very long time. California politics only affects me in the sense that it does a lot. I notice it a lot on like labels. This is known to the state of California to cause cancer. I was like, oh, how did California figure that out and everybody else? Just basically whatever. So California's got to put their label on everything. That it affects me in that way. Okay, occasionally I'll see it. I don't intend to travel to California. I heard the weather's beautiful, but it's just so gross to me. Like the conservatives that are out there, and there are a lot. They're just not the majority. They can't get anything done. And so, you're left with whatever the socialist state of California is, which is unfortunate. They could do a lot better. It's really sad. That's where President Ronald Reagan came from. Anyway, Spencer Pratt is, I wouldn't say he's conservative. I'd say just common sense. And he's running because these wildfires burned his home down.
Update, I'm watching our house burn down on the security cameras.
And so that is now he's got a trailer. It's an Airstream trailer, by the way, which are pretty nice trailers. He's got that parked on the remains of where his home was. And he lives there so that he can run for LA mayor. And he's just doing it out of spite.
First off, Mayor Bass and I are definitely not working together. I blame this person for burning my house and my parents' house and my town and all my neighbors down.
But the things that he says are pretty accurate. He knows the numbers. He knows how to empower the fire department, how to empower the police department, how to deal and with homelessness that the Democrats cannot figure out. They just talk themselves around in circles with no solutions. As a father, he is sick and tired of seeing the disastrous effects of poor leadership in his community for decades. And so he's just had enough. And so he's running, and he's getting a lot of traction.
These people are evil that let every innocent person that pays their taxes feel unsafe on their streets that they pay taxes for. A lot of people don't have money to do things because they pay all their taxes, like me, and then the city and the government fails them. And whether your house burns down or you got a screaming drug addict in front of you, a naked drug addict in front of your kids causing trauma, there's people having literal drug addicts having sex on meth in front of kids. Parents are telling me they have to have their kids glued to an iPad in the backseat of their cars driving them to school. In other communities, they have to walk under these underpasses and walk past this. So I'll be able to tell my sons, thank God America had laws. And your dad said, hey, breaking news, let's enforce them.
And I hope so much that Spencer Pratt becomes the mayor of Los Angeles. And you listen to him on, whether it's a podcast, he's done many podcasts, he's done the circuits, he was in the debate. You watch that debate in its entirety. He does a great job. He's just a common guy. He doesn't claim to be some incredible movie star. He knows he's a reality star. He has a self-deprecating sense of humor, which was a key aspect of why Ronald Reagan was so loved, his ability to be self-deprecating and humorous, and also focused on like a handful of things. That's what made Ronald Reagan such a great governor and a great president, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that Spencer Pratt is Ronald Reagan by any means, although their acting, might be about the same. But he's just a common sense, likable, normal human being with a wife and kids. And he would just like his home state of California to be normal again. And obviously you can start with Hollywood, Los Angeles, that whole area. Now, will the people of Los Angeles feel the same way? I have no idea. I cannot understand how they vote in California. I certainly can't understand the mindset of the Hollywood-framed folks that are out there. But Hollywood is not doing well. They're moving to Atlanta and Georgia and various other places. So maybe they see some value in having a person who understands the business.
And we got businesses booming, more jobs. Hollywood, we're making even better movies than we've made in 10 years because the independent creative artists are inspired again. They're feeling supported. The vision is so real, and that's my fight.
I don't know. I just enjoy his rhetoric, his answers, his humility, his self-deprecating nature. He doesn't claim to know everything. They ask him, you don't have any experience. How are you going to come in there? And his experience is like, well, listen, from my community, I've got like 2 awards, and then Barack Obama was a community organizer. He didn't have any awards.
Yeah, when people keep saying you don't have the experience, I said I have 2 awards from my community. President Obama actually didn't even have awards when he was a community organizer. He was able to become a senator and then a president for 8 years. So I feel like him and I have the same experience.
So he's like more qualified than Barack Obama. And he went on to the Senate and then 2-term president of the United States of America. I don't think that's what Spencer Pratt is planning to do. But if you haven't seen anything, if you haven't heard anything about, I'm not saying you need to support Spencer Pratt financially. You certainly can to help him with his mayoral candidacy in this primary coming up very quickly in Los Angeles. But get to know him and see what's going on out there. And there's hope, right? There's hope.
When you lose everything and you truly have nothing, your parents lost everything, you have to focus on what's important, which is your family. Like my kids being healthy, like my kids are alive, my wife's healthy. So I'm really on my person. That's my focus that keeps me going. And then what's this journey this year has been on are my neighbors, because they don't have the platform I had. So I really had to step up for all the senior citizens that come to me crying in the town that are, 80 years old, that lost everything. And I have these social media platforms that reach millions, and I need to be the person to tell their story. And a great quote right after the house burned down, the Entertainment Tonight host, he looked at me off camera and he said, "You have 2 weeks right now why people care about this tragedy, and then nobody will ever care again. So it is your responsibility for your community and the neighbor, the 12 people that burned alive, to not let people forget." And I also now, why, my journey's changed, is to really make sure there's change and that we can be honest with what happened and failures and the negligence and do everything I can.
I like it when candidates are normal. I like it when they are focused on family and faith and freedom. We don't need big government. We don't need big government answers. We don't need allegedly intellectual government answers. As F.A. Hayek would say and have said in many of his essays, the problems with the elite or the intellectual class is that they're not actually that smart. They're just retail salespeople of other people's bad ideas. And you see that a lot in government. And so I don't want a yes man or a yes woman in Congress or at the school board or in the county supervisors or the state house or the halls of Congress or wherever. I want people who get elected to represent their districts, to do their job, and to be able to explain themselves clearly. And so my deepest hope is that for folks that are running like Thomas Massie, that they win their primary. And I hope that Spencer Pratt wins his primary. And I hope that the folks that I've endorsed, like Stacey Besch and other folks, win their primary as well, because I like the idea that they're not bought and paid for, and that they should be out there doing their job. And you know what? If it all falls apart, it's not the end of the world. They don't have to sell their soul to stay in power, because if they lose, they go back to being the successful, normal people that they always were. They've got other things that they could do. I like that type of thing. I like that. I hope that it stays that way. And you don't need to put a picture of Donald Trump on your website. You don't need to tell everybody how Trumpian you are. It's actually not as effective as you think it is, because even the folks that really, 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 really love Trump are a little grossed out by some of the things that have been happening lately. And so, it's not necessary. Just run on who you are. You don't have to associate yourself with somebody else. Maybe I'm not a very good political advisor, but let your ideas, that has been a Republican thing, right? Let your ideas do the talking for you. If you have good quality ideas, if you are able to explain conservative policy to people, and that may mean that you get to say, I'm sorry that you're hurting in that way, but it's not the government's responsibility to wipe your butt. Sorry. You should maybe go to church or something. That's probably why I'll never get elected to anything beyond the school board. Of course, that would mean that I have to be contested, which is fine too, by all means. If folks want to contest me for the school board, I'm not running for another couple of years, so by all means, go ahead. It's nice to have that. But there's no debates in school board. Those are also nonpartisan. So maybe I shouldn't be giving people advice because there's so many people who get paid to do that. And they seem to know what they're talking about. But I don't necessarily like any of them. The experts that tell people how to run a successful campaign. Just get your ideas out there, meet with people, shake hands, and do your thing, which I'll be doing later this week for Stacey Besch as well. So if I see you out there, hope that brings a little sunshine into your life. And I hope that this, I don't know if my endorsement even matters. Probably doesn't. I don't think Thomas Massie cares whether I endorse him or not. I think he would appreciate it. But again, out here in Iowa, what's the difference? But if you want to lend your support to Thomas Massie, I encourage you to do so. He needs it more than Spencer Pratt. I think Spencer Pratt's going to come out of this pretty well, and I support them. And I support the folks that are out there doing the right thing for the right reasons. And what they're trying to do is go out and honestly just be the Sunnyside of everybody else's life that hoping will vote for them. And that's what I'm hoping that we'll be able to do for you as well. So more to come here from the Sunnyside of Life as we head out to the farm and do more exciting things. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter so you can get all of the details behind the scenes and additional videos on what it is that I've got going on. So go ahead and click on the link, and it's real easy. Just join the newsletter by clicking on the link, filling out your name, your email, and we'll add you to our mailing list and get you that newsletter and links to the things that we do that we don't share with everybody else. So make that a part of your day. Appreciate everybody being with me, and I hope that you have a fantastic week and that you have the opportunity to go out and be the sunny side of somebody else's life.
When the shadows fall and doubts begin to creep, remember together we're strong, never weak. Lift your neighbor up with kindness every day. Let your actions speak the words you want to say.
The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. None of this is possible, of course, without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory.
Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life. Be the sunny side of someone else's life. Share your light and joy through struggle and strife. Keep your heart open and your soul always bright. Together we will share this sunny side life.
May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life in Christ be made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.